I'm wondering over the past 2 years, how often did you wish for the days that internet and social media didn't exist?
That's a great question. There are times I do wish it didn't exist. I have a real love-hate relationship with the internet because what's great, I've met some of the greatest people ever on the internet, and I've met some of the most horrendous people on the internet. But I think the internet is just 99% really helpful and useful for artists, and to be able to have outreach with your fans and all that, and with people who support what you do and all that. But I guess my biggest complaint about the internet is the fact that we don't get to surprise audiences that much anymore when they come to see the movie, because there's so much stuff that needs to come out, and and so much extra materials and so many trailers and all that. I love when we just when we do our test screenings with an audience, they've never seen anything, so they just have a pure experience, and it's hard to get that.
It's funny how it ties into the film, though, because if you look at the choice of villain, for example, here's somebody who's basically, I won't spoil too much, but who's basically still dragging around what he experienced as a child and a teenager, which I feel is something that many people who are on the internet writing these things are like as well.
It tends to be, yeah. You get a lot of this, ruining my child, thanks for ruining my childhood thing, which I try to be sympathetic to everything, unless it's just misogyny, then that I have no patience for. But, so many other people are just so worried about something from their past being redone, and that's a valid concern, because, I would be nervous about Ghostbusters if I heard somebody was doing it and it wasn't me, because I wouldn't know what they were going to do. So all I can ever kind of say is I come to this with such love, and as does my whole team and Katie Dippold. We're huge fans of the movie, and so we just really wanted to create the same great experience we had 32 years ago seeing it for a new generation.
Yeah, but also means in terms of it's somebody who's the villain, is somebody who as a teenager was bullied a lot and who takes it out. Is that a personal story? It kind of feels like it.
Well, yeah, I feel so many of us were that way, and it's do you take the negative things that happened when you were growing up and turn them into a positive, or do you wallow in them and let them drag you down? And that's what I found, what I really want to do with that character of Rowan was the idea that here's kind of, God's angry man. I'm much more terrified of one person with an agenda than I am about the gods have cracked open the heavens and are going to send a ghost army down. Like that means that scares me more. What one person can do, and so I really this movie wanted to do this sort of story about one person with technology and brains, how they could actually come up with something that could create this sort of chaos.
Mm-hmm. How scary did you want the film to be?
I wanted it to be scary enough, but not so scary that families couldn't enjoy it. It's not a kid's film by any stretch of the imagination, but I wanted it to have the exact same tone that the original had, which was, it was a movie for adults, but it was able to entertain kids in a way the parents could go, oh, you're going to see this, there'll be a few things, that are a little adult, but you're going to have fun. It's funny, when I first was putting this together, since I'm known for doing R-rated comedies, I got so many comments and emails and tweets on the internet of like, I hope you'll make this family friendly like the original one was. It's like, when did you see the last one? There's a lot of swearing, there's one sex act with a ghost, and a ton of smoking.
Did you put any research into the paranormal aspect of the story, the ghost history of New York?
Well, yeah, Katie Dippold, who I co-wrote this with, she's way into ghost stories and horror movies and all that. So she was the one that headed up a lot of that stuff. I'm much more of a skeptic. I was the one who wanted to figure out how to connect science to the paranormal, even though it's a tenuous connection. We had hired a guy from MIT, a nuclear physicist, to kind of come on and vet our technology and help us try to figure out, okay, it's fake, but what's the closest thing to real this could be?
You're known as a smartly and impeccably dressed man, as we can tell.
Well, go.
But it makes me wonder, you live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Do you ever walk around in shorts and flip-flops?
Good God, no. No, here's the funny thing about Los Angeles. I always say it's the tyranny of the casual out there, because if you dress like this, everyone thinks you're weird and thinks you don't know what you're doing. But it's like I love London and New York and, just cities where people actually dress. In Paris, we were just, any metropolitan city does that. And for some reason, LA seems to reject that under this guise of like, we must be casual uber alles. So this is one of my many ways I fight back. And also, I just don't look good in flip-flops and shorts. No one wants to see that.
Don't you sweat a lot?
No, here's my contention, is that for years and years, you look back at old pictures of how people dressed in the old days. They were wearing wool and suits and hats and all that, and somehow they survived without air conditioning. I feel that overheating is sort of a state of mind, and if you dress in a way and say, I'm just going to try to be comfortable, then you do it, versus like, oh, I'm so hot. Although, that said, I get warm occasionally.
Ghostbusters! There's something strange